there. We've talked about this last week when we recorded. There was a initial tape from about 2 years ago. Last week we recorded, but someone who will go unnamed on this podcast took Drunk Sports too literally. And there was an incident at the end of the recording, which we won't talk about. But Dom, what's the word?
Man, the word's been good. We've been chilling here. Excited to be back on the cast. Looking to drop some scorching hot takes, get the people caught up, and really trying to just, produce some good content. Maybe this thing will turn into, my new career. Who knows?
I love it. Less work. At this point, it's two pals shooting the shit, talking sports, talking other stuff if it comes up.
Hey, if you want to follow us, make sure we get to on Twitter. We have a handle.
Drunk Sports Cast. I think it is
at Drunk Sports Cast. We haven't posted anything yet, but we'll leave that in the notes in the comment below. So make sure to subscribe to this video down below. So yeah,
we'll leave it in the description.
Exactly.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk some sports.
Let's do it.
The biggest news, as we spoke about on the air, off the air last week, we're big college football guys.
Huge.
Especially Big Ten. We both graduated from a Big Ten college, named Michigan State. The big news for college football has been the Urban Meyer scandal. Alleged knowledge of domestic abuse that occurred in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
With the wife of an assistant coach. The assistant coach's name, I cannot remember.
Zach Smith, I believe.
Zach Smith, correct. When he was investigated in 2015, it was alleged that Urban knew all about it. There were text leaks from Brett McMurphy, a college football reporter. Dom, your thoughts on the situation? Obviously, any incident like this is horrible. Any instance of domestic violence, anything like that, is nothing to joke about. It is a terrible situation. Is this the end of Urban Meyer? Is this the end of Urban Meyer at Ohio State? What are our thoughts?
So for me, first, this is a matter of domestic abuse. Some of the pictures that were photographed from Courtney Smith, the victim, they were horrible. So hopefully, when all the details come out, hope to get to the bottom of what actually happened here. As far as Urban Smith goes, this is really a can of worms. He had some issues at Florida with a lot of his former players getting in trouble, giving second, third, fourth chances. Mm-hmm. And now this comes to light. Really, there's no one to blame for the situation other than Urban Meyer. I called him Miles. Urban Meyer. He really walked himself. He really shot himself in the foot here, just by just backtracking and frankly lying to the media on the Big Ten media days. He could have saved himself a lot of headache. Just came out right away and said, "Hey, I was heard of this. I moved it up the channel," but instead he chose, for whatever reason, we'll find out later, he chose to ignore and deny. So now here we are talking about it.
And like you're saying, he had issues with this sort of thing in Florida. I think that's what makes it more surprising, is that he didn't kind of learn his lesson. Obviously, these incidents occurred sort of he was only 2 years in Ohio State at that point. I think his first year was 2012. It's just surprising that someone who did get, who gave so many second and third chances to his players would continue to do the same after it sort of landed him in a little bit of hot water. I don't know if it's as serious as now, because I honestly can't remember, his later Florida days after Tebow went on and everything. I can't remember the incidents that he got himself into. I just know that he landed himself in some hot water, maybe not necessarily as severe as this. I turn back to the question of, is this the end of Urban at Ohio State? What do you think?
So my take personally, a couple key details. So Ohio State came out and basically said this will be done in 14 days, which I thought was super interesting. For me, that's all I needed to know about this. If you're going to tell me that it's done in 14 days and just give a straight timeline like that that tells me they've already came to their decision. It's either one of two things: they're negotiating his buyout, or
Yep.
they're coming up with the strategy to mitigate all of the unanswered questions that Urban has to do. My gut feel, I think he'll remain the head football coach at OSU, just based on the fact that a lot of this, if he did report to the proper channel, like he said he did, and there's proof of that, I don't see any reason why the head coach of a football team needs to play the judge and jury of this case. Your thoughts?
I think that's the important part of it. Like you said, if there is proof of him reporting it to that next level, then it's sort of the burden of proof is not on him. It's on the administration. Whether that, whether it's found that he did at least take the proper steps. I don't know if you'd say he did everything he could, but at least he showed the effort to show, okay, like I'm taking this seriously. Like, yes, something needs to be done about this, but it's out of my hands.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be fine. If that's not the case and he did know about it and not reported everything, I think it's safe for me to say that he probably shouldn't be the coach. Obviously, I think this is a very serious charge for the coach himself. But if you're kind of shielding that kind of person from losing their job, that's a serious charge in itself. As we talked about over text and before we started recording, I think that Urban makes so much money for that school and for the NCAA in general, and the NCAA hasn't exactly been the most respectable organization in sports or in anything really. So it comes down to, it comes down to their profit. Their bottom line is what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Will losing, if Ohio State, could Ohio State still be a powerhouse without him? Is that something that they could risk losing all that money for? Because obviously Ohio State is one of the, 5 or 10 biggest programs and the biggest moneymaker for the NCAA, which is football. Because really it's football and basketball that make money. And even then it's the top 30, 40 schools maybe who consistently generate profit based on their costs.
Yep.
And Ohio State's football is obviously one of the biggest. And losing even a margin of that profit could really hurt them. I really think it has to be up to Ohio State rather than the NCAA, because obviously Ohio State, it's going to affect them no matter what their decision is. If there is, unless, like as we talked about earlier, he's kind of in the clear, as in, yes, he could have taken extra steps, but is it really his place to decide? Is he taking at least some steps to get at least an investigation going?
Yep.
Which at this point it doesn't seem like he did, but also it's, a week or two out of reporting. We don't really know anything at this point.
Yeah. Another thing that he's going to have to answer for, and this could ultimately be his downfall, is even if he did report it up the chain, knowing this guy's history, why did you fire the coach 2 years later? So in 2017 versus when you found out about this in 2015. So it becomes a moral issue of, well, you have this guy who, allegedly was having issues at home. Nothing was proven, but, you knew about this and you kept him around anyways. So, is that okay? So that all that stuff is going to have to be played out in the next 2 weeks. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen, because there's so many ins and outs with Earl Bruce being this guy's grandfather and being a mentor to Urban Meyer. So what role does that play into it? So there's so much in the story that
could be a lot of twists and turns coming.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's definitely going to be the biggest story going forward, unless it comes out something happened with Nick Saban. Honestly, because Saban is really the only coach who has been consistently at that level with Urban for 6-7 years. That Sweeney's coming up to it. Harbaugh just makes a lot of noise. So they're really the two, and Jimbo's got to prove himself at A&M. But really, any big story about Saban or Meyer is going to really captivate the sport going forward. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Keeping in the same vein as college football, we got some over-unders.
Over-unders, let's do it.
Discuss. I got to pull up the big one we were talking about. We could cut this a little bit.
Yeah, we'll just cut it.
We can at least trim a little fat from this, so it's not just me pulling out over-unders. Okay. So, we can still cut this. How many games are there in a season? It's 12, right?
Yes.
Am I losing my mind?
There's 3. Yeah, we play 3 non-conference plus 9 conference games.
Yes.
And the SEC plays 4 non-conference games and 4 non-conference, 8 conference games, and they basically get a bye week in the middle of the season.
Cowards.
And it's so brutal. I don't know. I think it's dumb.
Yeah, this is good. We can cut this portion because I got to pour beer as I pull up these articles. So, all right, I've got decent win totals on here from a lot of teams, actually.
You want to email me the link when you get it?
It's alphabetical, yeah. Hang on. You still on that? Yeah, I got you. I sent it to you right now. Some very high over-unders on... Ooh.
Little bubbly?
It's the Belgian brew I was talking about.
Oh, nice.
That comically large bottle. It's like a wine bottle. Yeah, there's a couple I want to touch on here. Mostly, Alabama and Clemson having 11 as their over-under. Basically, like, will they lose a game or won't they? I feel like... I
gotta have their schedule available.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one, too. Illinois, 3.5. I love it. I'm hammering that under.
Lovey.
I'm hammering that under. We can really just hit big ones that we want to talk about. Obviously, in Michigan State, we want to hit. They're at 9. It's probably about right. Bama. All right. Let me know when you're ready.
All right. Do you have how are you getting the schedules?
Well, I mean, I figure we could pull up.
All right. I have them on CBS Sports. I got links to them. I can click them real quick.
All right. I feel like we could just go for Michigan State. We like after we talk about a couple of them, like obviously Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. We can tie in the Urban Meyer. Like, will they win? If the over/under is without Urban, how do we feel about it?
Yep.
And then for MSU, if you pull up the schedule, we could just go gut reactions, like
all right,
kind of rapid fire type.
We'll do that last. We'll do MSU last.
All right. So.
All right.
Cut back in.
Whenever you're ready.
3, 2, 1. All right. We have pulled up the over/under win totals for all of college football.
Yep.
Their opening lines as of June, so they could have shifted slightly. There's a couple we wanted to touch on. Mostly Alabama and Clemson had their over/under set at 11 games. So the question is, will they win a game, or I'm sorry, will they lose a game?
They will win a game. I'm hitting the over.
I would. You got me there. I believe both Clemson and Alabama will win a game. Let's get that out of the way. We both think that they're good teams. I think if you had to pick Clemson or Alabama to lose one game or to go undefeated, which would you pick?
Alabama or
Clemson.
I'm just taking a peek at their schedule. Looks really favorable for Alabama. I mean, they get Auburn at home. They get they got to go to LSU and to Tennessee. I really don't see them losing. And classic SEC, they play the Citadel week like 11. So they get like a bye week literally before the SEC championship game and the Iron Bowl at Auburn. So I really like Alabama here in their schedule.
Yeah, I think their schedule may be a little bit tougher than Clemson just because it's SEC versus ACC.
Mm-hmm.
They both get Texas A&M, the Jimbo Fisher-led Texas A&M, but Clemson gets them on the road. I think that's really the difference. I think the biggest question for Bama is going to be LSU on the road, just because no one's going to really know what that Tigers team's like. Obviously, they snuck in the top 15 or 20, whatever it was, last year. But yeah, I might disagree. I might lean Clemson.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with Alabama as a team. Obviously, I just think Auburn is always they're a wild card team in my opinion, not because they could be good or bad, just because they as we saw last year, they could be good enough in that time to beat Alabama.
Yeah.
Same with Texas A&M. Like Texas A&M, obviously with Johnny Football there, they were a very above average team. I don't want to say dominant because they weren't dominant. They didn't win anything. But they were a powerful team who took games off a good Alabama teams.
Yeah.
If Jimbo Fisher can lead them to something decent, then they could beat Alabama. LSU on the road, like they have a couple of those games where it's really those three games, to be honest. I think Tennessee's a joke.
You're not worried about the Citadel week 11?
I would not be worried about the Citadel if I were Alabama. I just think they have more questionable games than Clemson does, where Clemson really only has that Texas A&M game where they're on the road and it's like, okay, that's the team where we kind of don't know where we're at. They still have, obviously, some games that could be tough with Louisville, who's been good in the past couple years. Obviously, they lost their best player. And South Carolina, who could, in theory, piece something together.
Yeah,
but if your toughest teams, if two of your three toughest teams are big question marks, and honestly, all three, because Texas A&M, it's like, well, it's Jimbo Fisher's first year. Is he going to have enough time to put a team together that could beat either of these teams?
Yeah. I wouldn't sleep on South Carolina this year. They have a really, really good recruiting class coming in. I believe this 2018, their freshman recruiting class was top 5. I believe they're going to be top 10 or top 15 to start. We'll see. But I could see it both ways. The good news about this is the line is at 11, not 11.5. So really, do you think they lose 2 games in the regular season? That seems pretty unlikely. So best case, you're either pushing or you're gonna get it.
Right.
So.
It's a favorable for a better. I guess because you would probably go over for both of them, because worst case, I don't think they lose 2 games. I guess like I said, Bama obviously is Bama and Clemson are obviously the 2 best teams in college football.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a question of I think Bama's tougher schedule, at least, and again, tougher is in quotation marks just because you don't know what these teams are.
Yep.
Theoretically, though, they do have their 3 toughest games are much harder than Clemson's 3 hardest games.
Yep.
So maybe you lose there, but I think at worst you push. Heading down, do we want to talk Illinois?
Let's talk some Illini. So
my Fighting Illini, my former Fighting Illini, they were the worst team in the Big Ten last year, weren't they? I believe Rutgers won 2 or 3 games. I don't know how many Illinois won.
3.5 here for Illinois. Got to take a peek at their schedule real quick. 3.5. If it was 3, I would like it. 3.5. They got to win 4 games. I'm smashing the under. I don't know about you on this one, Nick.
Illinois was 2-10 last year, the worst team in the Big Ten, and they went 0-9 in the conference.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Lovie Smith is still employed.
Former Bears head coach Lovie Smith, yes.
Yep, he's on what we like to call the way down. And one of the funniest things about
he's getting the bag though. He's getting paid, which I appreciate, which I respect.
Yeah.
Like Lovie's got the right mindset of it. He's living my dream. As I always say, my dream is to be a below average college football coach, enough to get that other contract where you're still going, but like your expectations are so low. Like no one really cares if you win like 4 or 5 games. If you ride that out for 4 or 5 years, it's like you got a nice, $6, $7, $8 million in the pocket.
Here's my question. Where's all that money coming from? Who is donating to the Illinois football program? Who is going to these games? I mean,
it is Dick Butkus. Dick Butkus himself is he's keeping Illinois football alive.
Have you seen this man lately? He has Lovie Smith looks like he's got this
got
white
a beard
beard.
going on.
I know, he looks like an old man. I mean,
how old is Lovie Smith?
God.
He can't be like below the age of what, 60? He is 60. I got on nose.
Okay. I thought he was a little bit younger, but regardless. Yeah. Another quick side topic. One of the funny things, looking at Alabama's schedule and Clemson's schedule on my sheet here, it actually says what the ticket prices are going for. So a lot of Alabama's games, like 60, 100, 150 bucks. Illinois has at least, I'm looking here, 5 or 6 games that are less than $10. You can buy tickets right now. Yeah, $9, $10. Does have the at Wisconsin game is going for $62 minimum ticket. So if you're looking, if you're an Illini fan out there looking to score an upset at Wisconsin, I'd get your ticket now.
Buy now. Price is low. It's like we're like stock investors. We're like stock traders right now. You buy in low, you sell high.
Yep.
Get those tickets in, just like when we would buy season tickets freshman year. And it's like, oh, Michigan and Ohio State, those are the big tickets. Like, we'll sell those, pay off the rest.
Yep. You never know.
Speaking of Michigan and Michigan State,
yep,
they have identical over-unders. Our thoughts. Your thoughts.
Identical over-under. So
9. We got it set at 9.
I really like that line for both of us. I think as far as Michigan State is concerned, I mean, that's really saying that we're going to lose, our 3 big games. We're going to lose the Michigan game, we're going to lose the Ohio State game, and we're going to lose the Penn State game and win everything else. Same thing for Michigan. I mean, Michigan, unfortunately, has to play at Wisconsin, or I think they get Wisconsin at home this year. But
yep.
But that that's like the only team in the West that like is at least competitive, which stinks.
So my only we'll go through Michigan State in a little bit, in a couple minutes. Michigan has a significantly harder schedule than I think people are realizing. They are away week 1. They play Notre Dame at Notre Dame.
Right, people forget that.
Then they have their non-conference in Western and SMU.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska is, I believe, the Big Ten wild card this year. I like to say wild card a lot, but Scott Frost obviously just came off an undefeated season. I almost said 16-0 because I'm thinking about the NFL. They came off undefeated season at UCF. Obviously, less competition in that division, but still going undefeated at any level is a feat. I believe that Nebraska is still 2-3 years away. They need a little bit of time to get their system going and get Scott Frost's guys in there until they're contending for that Big Ten West against the Wisconsins. And then they're at Northwestern, which, as a Michigan State fan, Northwestern is not a joke.
They're always any team. I mean, they sneak up on teams. They play everyone tough.
Pat Fitzgerald. I feel like he's been there since I was 8 years old.
Yep.
He's been the head coach of Northwestern since I was 13. They play Wisconsin at home, which, as we were saying, is starting off probably a top 6 or 7 team in the country.
Yep.
Definitely the favorite to win the Big Ten West and a top 2-3 team in the Big Ten. At Michigan State, another top 10 team. Home to Penn State, another top 10 team. Rutgers is a joke. Indiana is a joke. And then at Ohio State. I mean, I realistically think out of the big ones, which is Notre Dame, Michigan State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Ohio State, they win two at the most. I feel like the ones that they could, it really all depends on their quarterback, because that's what Michigan fans have leaned on as an excuse, is like, oh, they've never had a quarterback. Like John O'Korn was their quarterback. And now that they have a somewhat decent, at least it seems like, in Shea Patterson, a quarterback in Shea Patterson, like, is that what it takes? But, because, I mean, they've always had a good defense. They've always had a solid running game.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's a tough schedule. Like, you're playing, like, obviously the four best teams in the Big Ten, who are all top 10 teams, along with, I don't know what Michigan's ranked preseason, but Michigan State, Wisconsin, Penn State, Ohio State are all top 10 teams preseason.
Yep.
And Notre Dame, I think, was like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Ugh, that does not bode well for the Jim Harbaugh crowd, who has been vocal that they're disappointed with his, one win against Michigan State, and that's when we won 3 games, and nothing against Ohio State in 3 years, 4 years?
4 years. I mean, they're like 1-12 or whatever in the past decade. But so you over under, Nick, what do you got? 9 wins, U of M football.
Vegas is so good. If I had to bet like 9.5, I'd go under, because I think it's going to be 9. I think it's going to be 9 on the dot.
Yep.
I'm going to go under.
Okay.
Just because of what Michigan football has had some very unlucky moments. The spot against Ohio State, the kick six, I guess you wouldn't even call it the punt six, I guess technically.
Right.
Against Michigan State, I think the biggest question marks on this schedule are Penn State. They lost so many weapons on offense, and Michigan State. If they can stay healthy and their starters develop as they should, I think Ohio State, with or without Urban Meyer, beats that team. I think Wisconsin beats that team, and I think Notre Dame beats that team. I'm going to go under, just because I think either Penn State or Michigan State figures it out. Obviously, because that's a couple weeks into the season, 7-8 weeks into the season, they have plenty of time to develop into a team, but that obviously gives Michigan that time. So I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna say they go 8-4 realistically.
Okay. All right, yeah, I'm with you there. I got 8-4 as well. I think you covered most of it. Let's move on to the alma mater.
The Shadows.
The Shadows. Shout out to the Red Cedar River.
All right, let's do. Why don't? I feel like I just talked a lot, so why don't I read off Michigan State's schedule? You give me your gut reactions for win-losses, just kind of in that instinct, and I will chime in if I have a differing opinion. Right?
All right.
Utah State at home.
Utah State at home. This is a Friday night game. It's in Spartan Stadium. It's gonna be rocking. I believe the line on that game is like 27. I saw last. Really don't see a slip up here from State, other than if Brian Lewerke is decapitated on field, and that's what I got.
Yeah, minus 27 is that game.
Was it actually?
I'm sorry. It opened at minus 27.
Oh,
excuse me. It's down to 23.5 pretty consensusly.
Okay. So it's moved down. Still 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, 3 touchdowns and a field goal is basically where they set that line at. Like, is it going to hit 24 or is it going to go under 24?
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't like the big spread games. I don't like. I don't know.
I know you don't. Our Sheets group with shout out Gabe, Brad, and Puba. Our Sheets group, you always would bet the under if it was over like 25 points or something like that.
It's too much for me.
I agree. But even then, that's Michigan State, which has been my issue with betting on Michigan State since I became a freshman, they never. Well, I mean that's when I started betting on them because
Right.
I didn't. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously I was an Illinois boy until then. They never blow out an opponent. Like even I can't remember was it Furman when we went 3-11 or
3-9.
3-9 whatever was it Furman the Knights Furman Knights was that the team? We'll cut that. Yeah. But we were supposed to like house them. Like, we were favored by like 30 points, and we still only beat them by like 17 or 21 or something like that. So Michigan State, even when they have the advantage, they never blow out a team. So any over under with them in terms of point spread for a game, I like to lean the under just because of what that team is.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, Michigan State, Arizona State at Arizona State.
At Arizona State in the desert, our quarterback Brian Lewerke is from there, so I'm sure he's going to have a big showing.
Homecoming.
Homecoming for him. It's a pretty young Arizona State team. I don't really see them making a lot of noise in the Pac-12. I got to give this win to the Spartans. I don't see. I think the line's a little closer on this one, 10 or 12 points. But I don't see, unless heat's a factor and the travel on the West Coast and all that. But I think we should adjust nicely and get the W.
I agree. I think it's any of these non-conference ones are tough to bet against a Big Ten team that's returning. Like, how many starters? How many starters are we losing?
We have 18.
3?
We have 18 total.
22.
Yeah.
It's tough to bet against that. At Indiana.
Don't have a whole lot to say here. Indiana's been pretty atrocious, but they did beat us when we went 3-9.
Yeah, 3-9.
They just got a new coach. I think it's the second year. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, me either. Very, very easily forgettable person.
Yeah, so they're still rebuilding. They're a long ways off from being competitive in the Big Ten. Unfortunately, they're going to be the punching bag of the East Division for a long time to come. And I think we blow by them. This will be our second consecutive road game, which is notable after a long trip out west. But I don't see the Spartans slipping up here.
No. I agree. You kind of hit on all the points. Indiana could be interesting in a year or two, depending on how this coach pans out, because I think they are at least an average team. Like you said, they've gone, like 5-7, like a year or two ago, like 6-6. They hover around that average mark, where I'm worried that they're just kind of stuck in it.
Yeah,
like
man, a bowl game.
It's just like they're riding that medium of average.
I mean, a bowl game for a Hoosiers fan that's like a great season, and that's where state football was. Like, I mean, not like a decade ago, a bowl game was a great season for us.
Oh yeah,
and our coach is really taking it to the next level.
They could get there. That'd be interesting to see. I always like competition. Obviously, I mean, I don't want it just to be Ohio State winning it every other year. I want, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Penn State, even Michigan. As much as I would like to see them get beat down every year, like it's more fun when the games are interesting and not just
I agree.
blowouts. Home to Central.
Not much to say. Noon game. I think we just blow them out.
Yeah, I agree.
4-0.
Home to North. Yeah, 4-0 so far. Home to Northwestern.
This is a tricky one. Depending on how Northwestern develops throughout the season, this could be a really trap game going into an Penn State next week. Pretty unfortunate for MSU is that our bye week is like week 2 of the season.
Yes. Week 3. We get Utah, Arizona, and then a bye before Indiana.
Yep. So it's gonna be a grind. We got that bye week, and then we go at Indiana. So then Central. I still like the Spartans to win here. I wouldn't be too shocked if they slip up here. I mean, that would be Brian Lewerke doesn't develop. We get some injuries. Definitely see that
Yeah.
happening, but I'm going to lean on a Spartan win here, probably by a narrow margin, like 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, our buddy Gabe likes to lean heavily on revenge games. This is technically a revenge game because this is, the biggest, or not the biggest, but one of the worst losses. Or we only lost 2 games, didn't we?
When?
Last year,
Yeah, correct. We went 11-2.
Northwestern, Ohio State.
Yep.
Obviously, the Northwestern game we were favored and probably should have won. So that's why I'm saying it's a revenge game.
Yep.
The next 2 are the most interesting to me because I don't see us winning both of them. It is at Penn State and home to Michigan. Those teams, as I mentioned in the Michigan segment, are um, they could be top 5 teams at the end of the year. They could, fall down to that mid-20s. They could be just solid but need some work. They are, to me at least, the 2 most interesting teams at the Big Ten, just because you don't know. Obviously, with Michigan, it hangs so much on Shea Patterson, and if he can be the quarterback that they need him to be. And Penn State, it's if they can recover and put the team together like they had the past 2 years.
Yep.
After losing so much talent. I don't think we win both of those games. I think those games, I can't say, which team will beat, which team will lose to. I just don't think we win them both. Obviously, back-to-back, one at Penn State, and then coming back home to Michigan after a potentially rough game. I don't know. I don't see us winning both. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if I'm going to put, if I'm a betting man, which I am,
Same. Yeah, correct.
I think it's more likely that we win at home versus Michigan. We take the rivalry a lot more seriously than they do. We're always fired up to play. I'm not sure that Michigan, how tough they'll be this year. They got a new quarterback, so we'll see how he develops. But that Penn State game really scares me. It's going to be a tough place to play, and hopefully they come up ready to show up. But yeah, I mean,
looking ahead is always the worry when Michigan's ahead.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. I agree. I think if I had to pick one that we would win, it would probably be Michigan.
Okay.
But again, I would be not surprised at all if it went the other way. If we expended it all against Penn State just to go against that, and then we drop it to Michigan.
Yep.
Going forward, Purdue at Michigan State. Purdue is pretty unremarkable in the football world.
Since Drew Brees.
Yeah. I'd go Michigan State there. At Maryland. Maryland's been average to okay. The past couple of years, they took a game off us twice in the past 3-4 years, I believe.
Yep.
And they've been solid. Ohio State, I don't like betting against Ohio State. As we talked about earlier, I still think that unless Urban is gone and there's big shakeups within the program, it's not going to matter. They're still going to get those recruits. It's going to be Ohio State until they prove otherwise. Obviously, we took the Big Ten championship away from them 3-4 years ago to get to the Rose Bowl. We took the Connor Cook, the windmill game, the Geiger windmill game that we were both at.
That was freezing that day.
Oh my God, I was miserable. I also was up on the very top row of Ohio Stadium with no jacket on. Poor decision on my part, if we're being honest.
I will say though, we've been the only competitor to Ohio State in the Big Ten. I mean,
in the Urban era,
we're one of the only ones who can actually beat them. I mean, Iowa, I think
2-2, I believe, right?
Yeah,
2-2 against Urban.
Yeah, last year we got spanked, but
yeah, it was bad.
It's gonna be a new year. They're still gonna be favored for sure, but I still think if we ran it 100 times, I think we lose probably 65 of them.
Sure.
But I'll chalk it up as an L for now.
I agree. And then for those last 2 games, at Nebraska and home to Rutgers, unless Nebraska really really shocks the world and is the Scott Frost team like they had last year, I'm pretty good with MSU, and then Rutgers is Rutgers. So
Tickets are going for
uh,
$12.29 right now
12.29.
in Spartan Stadium. Get them while they're hot.
Rutgers, don't let Rutgers get hot. Get them on a 3-win streak that might spike up to $20. It's too rich for my blood. 10-2 is what we're looking at, realistically.
I'm in consensus there. So
I think
that's the expectation.
Yeah, the expectations going forward. So, all right, we're gonna any other college football news we want to touch on?
Real quick, if the line's at 9, that would put us over. So I think I'm really comfortable hitting the over for 9 for Michigan State. Even 9.5, I still like the over.
Oh yeah, I mean 9.5 is where it gets tricky. It really just depends on teams like Northwestern and we just talked about
Nebraska.
Thank you.
Yep.
Moving out of the college football world into the professional, we can talk win totals. What I really want to talk about is the Cleveland Browns, because as you and I were talking about, you were earlier before we started recording. You are on the Browns hype train.
I am. I really think the Browns are going to make some noise this year. 6 wins, baby. They're going to be. I think they're going to play. They're going to play spoiler to a couple teams this year.
I mean, I think it's a joke that Hugh Jackson is still a coach in the NFL. You win one game in 2 years and you still keep your job. Like, that is absurd to me. I'm looking at the over-unders for the NFL. The Browns are the worst in the league with 4.5 wins, which sounds...
I'm smashing the over.
I'm hitting that under.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I mean, like, okay, if they won 4 games, I wouldn't be surprised. If they start to win 5 and 6 and get into that, mid-range, mid-pick tier in like the draft, like you're going from 0 wins to 6. That is an enormous jump. Like going 8-8 to like 10-6 is that's a huge leap for a team.
Sure.
But to win 0 games and to all of a sudden win like 6, I don't know. Has that ever been done before, do we think?
0 games to 6? Well, the only other team to win 0 games is the Detroit Lions. So, I don't know. Ask the Detroit Lions, who are like now a playoff contender.
Yeah, apparently the Lions are better than everyone. Well, I don't know. I think Matthew Stafford's very good. I don't see it. I don't see them like last year. Last year was their year.
Yeah,
last year they got a hurt Aaron Rodgers. Your Packers had to start Brett Hundley for several games, which did not make you happy.
No.
The Bears had a rookie quarterback. My Bears had a rookie quarterback who was, a good quarterback, but he needs time. The Vikings were on like their 3rd stringer and ended up getting, Kirk Cousins out of it. I don't see it. Like the Lions would have to take a hell of a leap with Matt Patricia. And I think their defense has always been there, or at least always. In the last 2-3 years, they've been good enough. But it's like they're pieces away, and it's like you don't know what pieces. It's more of like, will the team actually do it?
Yeah, I agree. No doubt the NFC North is going to be tough this year, but I mean, it really just the NFL is so the margin of error is so close in those games. I mean, literally you get a fumble here, a drop pass there, and that's the end of the game. So to be to that elite level, you really have to be on your game and be a special team, like we've seen from the Patriots time and time again.
That's another one. Like, do the Patriots make the Super Bowl again?
So I mean, who's standing in their way? I mean, the Rams are much improved. Or they're in the AFC, I think. Mm-hmm. Or are they? I can't remember. You're going to have to deal with the Steelers, who are always good. So, I mean, really, I mean, I don't see anyone else from the AFC stepping up to compete. Um, the NFC, on the other hand, you got the Vikings, you got the Packers, you got the Eagles, you got to deal with, you got the Falcons. I mean, these are all really solid teams. Used to be, I would say, the Seahawks, but they're kind of falling apart right now.
Yeah, they've lost a ton of pieces to trades, to injuries, to retirements. Earl Thomas just saying peace out.
Yeah, I don't see that team being competitive in the near future.
So in the AFC last year, there was Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is obviously they played them close last year. That's probably the most interesting team to come out of the AFC besides New England, Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh, it's been the same team year after year after year. They've got Antonio Brown, they've got Le'Veon Bell, they've got Big Ben, they've got Juju now, Juju Smith-Schuster. They always lose to the Patriots without fail. It's like the most lopsided rivalry in sports in the past 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And last year they didn't even get to him because Jacksonville just decided Blake Bortles is going to throw 4 touchdowns, and their defense is going to be locked down, and they're going to win. I'm thinking New England. New England's obviously changed a lot. They lost Danny Amendola to the Dolphins. They have Eric Decker now instead of Brandon Cooks. They still have Gronk and Brady, which I guess is really all that matters, and Belichick. It comes down to, is Jacksonville going to step up? Is New England going to step down? What's going on? What do you think? What do you think about Jacksonville, or basically the rest of the AFC? Because that's really looking at last year's playoffs. Obviously, Jacksonville's really the only contender out of the group, because there was Buffalo, Tennessee, Kansas City. If Tennessee can stay healthy, maybe, but they still got blown out by 3 touchdowns against New England.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only 2 teams I can see competing with the Patriots are the Steelers and the Jaguars. We'll see how Blake Bortles turns out this year. He had a decent run last year. We'll see if he takes the next step to become elite. Ben Roethlisberger, always tough in Pittsburgh, but I'm just looking at the rest of the AFC. I just don't see it. I mean, the Raiders, I don't know. I don't know anything about them, so I feel like they could surprise people.
So I've been reading some articles about them the last season. It's like they want to trade Khalil Mack. It's like Khalil Mack is your best player by far. It's the same thing with the Rams and Aaron Donald. Why are you not actively going for your best player? Mm-hmm. Not signing Aaron Donald is absurd.
Yeah.
It just does not make sense.
Al Davis is going nuts.
Dude, they moved to LA and it all falls apart.
Yeah. Which I don't think... Well, no, I think the Chargers will go back to San Diego.
Think so? At some point?
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm getting the allergies.
Yeah. No bueno.
No bueno.
Dog? Dog in the house?
No dog. I don't know. I think I might be either sick or have allergies. I don't know what's going on with me right now.
All right, we'll power through the last little bit. We'll touch a little NFL and NBA. We can cut this little part.
All right.
All right. 3, 2, 1. On to any other finishing. I guess not on to anything. Any other finishing thoughts for the NFL? Obviously, the Browns were the one team we wanted to really touch on.
I mean, just a side topic of the sport in general. How's the viewership going to be this year? How's the league going to respond to all this negative controversy? Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of interesting. So we'll see how that storyline develops throughout the year.
So the one thing I've always said when people who talk about the Antrim controversy is that the percentages of decreases in viewership falls in line with the people who cut cable in general. Those numbers don't account for people like me who use DirecTV Now and stream
legally, right?
Legally. NFL Red Zone. I have Red Zone.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. No, I love Red Zone. Red Zone's great. It doesn't count that. I can't for sure say that, but it doesn't. It does not count the streamers. It does not. It mostly just the percentage of decrease for viewership falls in line with the people who have cut cable, which obviously is a very popular move to save money in the last 3-4 years. I don't think it has shit to do with the anthem controversy. I'm not trying to get the pot in hot water, but I have very strong takes on the anthem controversy because it's not a controversy. It's stupid as shit. Anyone who cares about people kneeling and thinking they're protesting the anthem don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's all we're going to touch about it because we're not going to get political.
Stick to sports.
Yeah, stick to sports. On to the last topic of the day, the NBA. Big news. The Rockets want to sign Carmelo Anthony. You are obviously a big NBA guy, as we've talked about the past several years.
Oh, massive. I'm wearing my NBA jersey right now.
Dude, the Golden Knights.
Score some touchdowns.
Punt the field goal for the NBA guys. We'll touch on this quick because we're mostly a football podcast. Well, I can't say that. We're a big college basketball crew as well.
True.
The Rockets joining, or Melo joining the Rockets makes no difference whatsoever.
No,
the Rockets are still going to be the bottom tier to the Warriors. No one's going to touch the Boogie Warriors. That's not going to matter.
From someone who has very little knowledge of the NBA, I will say, you tell me Carmelo Anthony goes somewhere. I mean, I'm interested. I'm looking. He's got arguably one of the sweetest names in all of sports. He was really cool in the Nuggets, and like his career just kind of like faded. I feel like so
that whole draft, those three, like Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. Those are three strong names. Those are strong names. Even Chris Bosh, who's like kind of like the next tier below it. That's a good name.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to ask the listeners to tweet us what their favorite name in sports is. So.
DeBrickashaw Ferguson is the only answer, by the way. That's the correct choice.
Yeah.
All right, Dom. Anything you want to touch on before we log off tonight?
Just wanted to, we'll probably do this once a week. This is going to be fun.
I think weekly's good. We can save up the topics of the week. Next week we'll have to get a little bit better itinerary, a little better rundown going on for what we want to touch on. But I think once a week that stores enough, at least especially in the downtime of the seasons.
Right.
It stores enough takes. We can get some takes boiling. We can get some topics stored so where we can talk a little bit more about them.
Quickly, your NL Central predictions for winning the division this year.
Not your Brewers, so obviously the Cubbies.
I have to respectfully disagree. The game, they're tied 5-5 right now with the Padres.
Are they?
Bottom of the sixth, so.
I got before we head out, we'll check the live standings.
I think Milwaukee's game and a half behind. But they are leading the wild card, but the wild card sucks, so.
They are a game and a half behind, correct. Really hate to see that. The Cubs leading the National League, as it turns out. Highest win percentage, highest wins, four less losses than the next highest team.
Yeah, the NL Central is the best division in baseball. Mark my words. That's my.
What about the boys in the AL East?
Well, the Orioles just bring them down by about the whole notch. So they get
Orioles.
They get zero. My Orioles, they're horrible. They traded away Machado. All they got left is Chris Davis. They got nothing going on there.
I do love how the Dodgers are still struggling, even if they got Machado. Even though there's only like 2 or 3 games behind the Cubs.
Right.
They'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been. We have to pick intro and outro songs. Would you like to care to discuss now, or would you like to discuss later?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty consensus. When I edit this podcast, that Tripping Billies by the DMV will be the intro song. The outro song is up for debate. Thoughts?
I think Tripping Billies should be the consistent, at least that intro part where it's like the eat, drink, be merry, for tomorrow we die, and then it starts into and we're tripping Billies, that part, and then it jams into the violin.
Okay.
That should be the intro. I think the outro we can be a little flexible. We can change it up every now and then. We can see what's going on. If there's something that's really hitting us, it'll probably just be like Greta Van Fleet or something every other week.
Right.
just rocking. Or as I've discussed at the beginning of the podcast, I've been on a huge Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave kick because it's all Tom Morello, little all Tom Morello up in here. So we can.
We'll see.
I think Trippin' Billy should be the consistent, and then we can flex at the end.
Yeah, all right, sounds good.
But this has been Drunk Sports.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
It's been a good one. We're getting in the groove. We're getting the talking down. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
All right. Peace.